If you are in the market for an electric vehicle today, there's a good chance you'll buy a Tesla. However, fast forward a couple of years, and this may no longer be true. Nowadays, traditional automakers like General Motors and Toyota, as well as a slew of Chinese companies like BYD, Nio, and Xpeng, are making their own electric models available to US consumers. Indeed, as the rapidly growing market for electric cars surpasses 500 manufacturers, cross-border competition is only getting fiercer. Meanwhile, several Chinese companies are expected to announce large expansion plans to build more electric vehicle factories. Tesla took 12 years to produce 100,000 vehicles. Nio and Xpeng reached that milestone in half the time. But what could become a headache for Elon Musk is good news for both international climate goals and Sino-American diplomacy. I believe it is competition and not cooperation between American and Chinese companies that will be the real driver of decreased greenhouse gas emissions around the globe. Your vision is your world. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Auto Age. Before we started today's video, please subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Okay, let's get started. At the COP26 conference, the United States and China, the two biggest polluters in the world, issued a joint statement in which they pledged to bilaterally confront the climate crisis. The countries listed a number of areas in which they intend to cooperate, including green design, the decarbonization and electrification of swaths of the economy, and the societal benefits of the clean energy transition. When Presidents Biden and Xi met virtually in November on the heels of the Glasgow conference, they confirmed their intent to work together on climate change. Policy experts were quick to applaud these commitments to greater cooperation, especially when significant ideological differences still hamper the US-China relationship over human rights, the legal status of Hong Kong and Taiwan, and the protection of intellectual property. Overall, the US and China are hard-pressed to find common ground. So climate seems to be a rare opportunity to work together toward common goals. However, this emphasis on cooperation is missing the mark. Critically, the two countries have agreed on certain climate goals, including trying to hold the global average temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius and reducing methane emissions. The bulk of the actual transition, however, including building renewable power plants, selling electric vehicles and insulating buildings, will be performed by private companies. And companies compete with one another. Cooperation, then, isn't the linchpin for driving down emissions to net zero. And indeed, cooperation without competition has its limits. The Bilateral Clean Energy Research Center under the Obama administration, for instance, produced a lot of good research and great ideas. But without greater involvement by the private sector, much of this progress, including work done on carbon capture and storage, remained in the lab, too short on funding to spur private sector demonstration projects and competition. The best analogy to illustrate an efficient network of competing businesses operating under international agreements and ultimately getting to an outcome beneficial to everyone might be the World Trade Organization. There, member countries cooperate in the sense that they set global rules for trade. Companies then compete in a variety of sectors, from electric vehicles to telecommunications, for market share around the world. To be sure, one of the WTO's main challenges has been friction between the United States and China regarding the interpretation of the trade rules. Nevertheless, the pledges coming out of Glasgow could serve as a blueprint for a set of standards both countries would feel pressured to follow. The private sector would then compete to sell the best green energy options at the best price. There are hints of this competitive progress in the electric vehicle market. Cross-border competition between manufacturers like Tesla and BYD provides consumers with more choice while driving down prices over time. And the electric vehicle market is bigger than just cars. China has led the way in popularizing electric bikes with leading startups like Bafang and Xiaomi. In response, a growing number of American and European companies have jumped into this space, triggering a steady stream of improvements such as lightweight, off-road, and folding bike designs. The market also includes battery production and charging station design, two sub-industries where companies like GM and Tesla are now trying to bring production back to the United States. U.S. participation in the global EV market is encouraging. Unfortunately, it's the exception rather than the rule. Although the United States has led the world in developing renewable technologies, it has been inconsistent in providing the tax and other financial incentives needed to support their steady growth in the market. As a result, China, South Korea, and many European countries have caught up in a number of renewable technologies as U.S. progress has slowed. We are competing with China and many other countries in the 21st century. In order to win the battle, we must ensure that the future will be created by the United States. According to media, Biden declared in his speech signing the executive order that electric vehicles are the car industry's future, and catching up with China and other leading countries in electric vehicles is a priority. The question is, are we ahead or behind in the race to the future? Biden went on to say that China is leading the race and is one of the largest and fastest-growing electric vehicle markets in the world. According to the record released by the White House, Biden also said that batteries are a key part of electric vehicles, and China currently has 80% of the world's power battery pack manufacturing capacity. But he also claimed that U.S. national laboratories, U.S. universities, and U.S. automakers led the development of the battery technology. Immediately after that, Biden continued to set goals. He said that the United States should regain its leadership and regain its leadership role. We have to act, and we must act fast. Under his non-binding executive order, the U.S. government needs to spend a lot of money on charging piles. Congress is currently considering a $1.2 billion infrastructure bill that includes funding for 500,000 charging stations and subsidies for new battery and electric vehicle factories. President Biden's Build Back Better plan is seeking to change the current situation. It envisions creating demand for clean energy through both regulatory requirements and procurement decisions. While aspects of the president's climate provisions await a Senate vote, some key parts of the infrastructure bill signed in November, including financial support for more electric vehicle charging stations, power grid upgrades and rail improvements, are now law. This puts American businesses committed to green technology in a better position to be able to compete with their Chinese rivals. Consistent, long-term support for projects based in the United States is the key to building up U.S. industrial capacity in other renewable energy markets such as wind and solar. Competition does not mean teetering at the edge of conflict. The key in this process will be for the United States to respect its rivals, including China. It's also important to give credit where credit is due. China has greatly reduced both its air pollution and coal use as a percentage of its total energy supply in the past decade. Its reforestation efforts are even more impressive. Forest cover in China has grown to over 23% today from just 8.6% in 1949. Of course, there is so much more to do. But things are looking up, and responsible competition is our best hope for global climate progress. China and the U.S. must compete in some sectors, but also seek cooperation for a better homeland, which is our common homeland. Okay. That's all for today. Please put your comments below, and share your insightful ideas with other people. Do you want to learn about more auto stories? Please keep following our channel and like our videos. Thank you so much for your continuous support. Your precious time with us is highly appreciated. See you.